What? That does not look right. Creepy mustache guy plays the pan flute type beat. What is up, homies? My name is Felix and I'm here back again with another video for you all today. And this one I'm pretty excited about because this is one of my favorite genres that I'm going to be teaching you guys how to make here today. And you guessed it, that genre is synthwave. If by some chance you don't know what synthwave is, you probably do, but you just didn't know what it was called. Essentially, it's just a genre that uses a lot of synth-inspired sounds, very 80s-like drums with a lot of reverb on them. It'll give you a very nostalgic 80s type vibe, just like I'm giving you right here with this little vibe here. You guys getting an 80s vibe from this, or is this more 90s for you? So yeah, anyways, you guys get the point. Today we're doing synthwave. Make sure you guys check out my Instagram, my SoundCloud, down in the description below, along with the playlist of songs I produce, my BeatStorm, my Discord, all that stuff. Go check it out if you'd like to do so, and now we can get into this video. Alright, so here we are inside of FL Studio, and when it comes to the tempo for synthwave, you can pretty much do whatever you want. Anywhere from like 90 to like all the way up to like 160 BPM is gonna sound fine. But today I'm gonna be making this beat right around like 90 to 100 BPM. That's, you know, where I'm gonna be working today. So my workflow for this one is going to be a little bit unorthodox because what I'm going to do is start with a little bit of drums just so that we have a little bit of basis, and then we're going to move on to all the melody components, and then we're going to come back and kind of finish out the drums and then, you know, polish everything up and make everything nice. So the first thing I'm going to do is grab some really nice old 80s type drums. There's quite a few different things you can use for this. If you just search up like 80s drum kit, you'll probably find what you're looking for, but you can also search up like vintage drum machine drum pack or something like that, and you'll also find a bunch of sounds that you can use. And maybe you're somebody who doesn't like to download any drum kits at all, you can go to packs and then drums, and then you can go to kits and then find Lin kick right here, and then you can also go into the snares, and there's probably quite a few of these that you can use, but I like the Lin drums because the Lin drum machine was very popular in the 80s and even still into the 90s and other eras as well. So yeah, Lin drums are just very classic sound you can use, and you know, we're gonna slap some reverb on these drums anyways, so yeah. But for right now, all I'm gonna do is just take a kick and a snare, and this drum pattern is pretty complicated, so you're gonna want to stay with me here. Basically what we're gonna do is right click and then fill each 4 steps, and this is a little crazy, it's a pretty advanced move here, but we're gonna take the snare and go like this, and now we have basically our entire drum pattern. And that's pretty much just gonna loop over and over while we put our other sounds in here for now, but we'll come back to this and, you know, spice it up a little bit later. Alright, so when it comes to adding the melody sounds, it's called synthwave for a reason, because they use a lot of synth sounds, a lot of synthy type inspired sounds. So that's what we're gonna be using, a lot of analog synth-like sounds. There's this pretty cool video that somebody made about free plugin alternatives to famous hardware synths. So if you wanna check that out, that's like right here. Some cool person made it. So the first thing I'm gonna do is pull up a little bass vibe here. So I'm gonna bring up VK1 Viking synthesizer, and just listen to this. This is the first preset in this plugin. So good, super nice sound, and that is what we're going to use for our bass here today. So just like there's many different ways to actually make your beats, there's many different ways to make your melodies as well. So what I like to do with synthwave is I like to start with the bass, and then I like to form the chords of the song based on those bass notes. And unless you have a chord progression already in mind, I think this is a really good tactic because it kind of inspires you to come up with some really cool chords. So I'm going to go to the piano roll, and then I'm basically just going to make some notes that are like this, and just copy this over. And now we're going to have this type of sound. Pretty dope sound already, and you can also do it a little bit faster if you want to. So you can go like this. But we're going to be going for a little bit of a slower vibe today, so we're going to go like this. So now what I'm going to do is build the bass line because I've already got an idea of how I want it to sound in my head. I want it to kind of descend a little bit. Alright, so I messed around with the bass line and I got this now. So yeah, that's what I got going on so far, and I also switched the preset to the Synthwave bass preset inside of this plugin called Synthwave Keys. I'm pretty sure this plugin costs like 20 bucks or something, but it's really not a big deal because you can replace this bass sound with any other bass sound that you want. So I also grabbed a little pad trumpet type sound from that same plugin. It sounds like this. Really cool sound in my opinion. You can replace this with any sort of like synth pad or synth keys or anything like that. But now what I usually do is just go through the bass line and kind of form the chords based off of that. So I'll basically just go like this and make a little vibe and now pitch this up. So I'm just gonna do a little pattern like repeating this like this. And then this chord right here is going to be something different, probably going to be a minor 7th chord. Alright, so I just got this chord progression right here, and I think it sounds pretty good. So these two sounds right here are pretty much going to be our foundation for the rest of the beat. We've got our bass line and then we've got our chords, and now we're going to add a bunch more stuff onto here. I'm going to add a bunch of counter melodies, a bunch of, synthy type leads and stuff like that. So the first counter melody I'm going to make is with this sound right here from OBXD. Essentially the way we're going to do that is just kind of follow the notes of the chords. So I'm going to start with maybe like this here and then go down. Okay, so I just whipped up this right here, and I think this sounds pretty good. So similar to a lot of other genres and really anything in life, a lot of the times simpler is better. So I'm really not going to overcomplicate or overthink a lot of these counter melodies, and I'm just going to do what sounds good. So you don't need to do a whole lot of crazy stuff, like this. But if you like how that sounds, you can totally do that. There are no rules to music, which is what makes it, so great and amazing. Alright, so I just went in and added a couple little things as far as the melody goes. I layered the bass line here with this sound. You won't even notice that, but it's just a little bass layer. And then I also added this pad here, which I actually made inside of PG8X, which is another one of those plugins that I talked about in that video that I talked about earlier. But yeah, I made this pad right here, pretty much from scratch. You guys probably know by now I'm a sound design expert, so I made this obviously. But then I also added this little sound here. And I'll probably have that playing during like a bridge or something like that. Alright, so now that we've got a pretty good melody going on here, it sounds like this. Obviously, all the sounds are not going to be playing all at once, so it doesn't really sound perfect right now. Also, not to mention it's not mixed or anything. But however, what we are going to do now is revisit the drums here. So I did add this little closed hi-hat in here. Just a pretty standard kind of pattern. But what I want to do is add some shakers in here, maybe some toms, just some other percussion sounds and stuff like that. Alright, so basically what I've done so far to kind of beef up these drums is I layered the kick and the snare. So those sound like this now. And then I also brought in another hi-hat here, and I just did fill each 4 steps like that. Just to add a little more bounce in there, and then I also added this little hand drum thing. And then I also added this shaker sound. So yeah, so far we've got a pretty nice groove going on, and I'm liking how this is sounding. I think I might add like an open hi-hat and then also some toms in here, and then we're pretty much almost going to be done. Alright, so as you can see, I brought in a couple toms just so I can add some tom fills and stuff like that, and those sound like this. So yeah, pretty fire, and then I'm also just going to make some random variations with those tom fills so that we get, some variety in there. But basically all we need to do now is just lay out the beat and then mix it, and then we're pretty much going to be done here. So I'm not going to show you guys my entire mixing process within this video because I do actually have a video on that if you want to check that out right here. But I am going to show you some of the important things that I do specifically when mixing synthwave type stuff. So obviously what we're going to do is assign all this stuff to a mixer track. So now what you want to do is make sure that you have your sounds kind of grouped together within the mixer. So you want to have your kicks put together and you want to have your snares put together, and ideally you should do this before you even put anything into a mixer track. But yeah, make sure that your sounds are organized because for what we're about to do, it's going to be very important. So usually a big part of the synthwave sound is having a lot of reverb on your snare and kick specifically, but pretty much all your drums. So for me, because I've layered a couple kicks and a couple snares, what I'm going to do is hold down Control and then click and select these bad boys, and then just find an empty mixer track while these are still selected, and then right click and go route to this track only. only. And now we're gonna move this bad boy over to where the kicks are, and then I usually like to just recolor this or rename this or something. And then I'm gonna do the same thing with the snares. So just go like this and route to this track only, and then move this bad boy over. So now that we've got our kicks and our snares routed to their own respective tracks, and also you should do this with your hi-hats and also with your tom sounds as well. So basically right now I'm doing this so that I can control the layers as one individual track, and so I can put the reverb onto the track that the layers are routed to, so that we don't have, you know, two different weird reverbs going on. So I'm just going to use Fruity Reverb for this, and we're going to pull up the small studio preset, or you can use the drum room preset. They're pretty similar, and you can also tweak the knobs a little bit, turn down the wet maybe, turn up the decay quite a bit. It's totally up to you how you do the reverb, but you basically just want to have a lot of reverb on the drums. So if your kicks and your snares aren't layered, you don't have to worry about this at all. You can just put the reverb directly onto the sound that you have. But for all the people like me who like to layer sounds, I think this is a pretty helpful tip. All right, so another tip that I have for this synthwave kind of sound is to take all of your melody components right here, and it's up to you whether you include the bass in what I'm about to do or not. I usually like to, but it's totally up to you. And then you're going to route this to a mixer track the same way that we did before. So route to this track only, and then these are all routed to this. And now what we're gonna do is go to your kick channel or wherever your kicks are routed to, click on that, and then go all the way to where we just routed all the melody sounds to, right click, and then do sidechain to this track. So now that that's sidechained, what we have to do is go to the melody routing track here, and then go to Fruity Limiter, and then go into the compressor, and then turn this down a little bit, turn this up, this down, and then turn this way down here. And now go into your sidechain thing, right click, and then kicks right there. And I know that was a lot of information right there. It was a lot of stuff to handle, but you can replay the video or slow it down, or, you know, pause it or whatever you need to do. But yeah, basically what this is going to do is it's going to drop the volume of your melody sounds whenever the kicks play. This right here is a pretty extreme example, but it's just to show you that it is in fact working. Some people like to do a really hard sidechain like that, but what I like to do is just bring it up a little bit, just so that it cuts off a little bit of the melody when the kick plays. So now the final thing I want to talk about is what you might maybe want to put on your master track. So a lot of times with synthwave beats, they'll almost fall into like a lo-fi category, because people put a lot of compression and like filters and distortion type effects on their master track to get a very, you know, old vintage lo-fi sound. So I think that's a really cool thing to do if that's what you're going for. You can go in here and maybe put MDA Degrade on here, which is a free plugin you can get, and that's not the right plugin. And then adjust the settings maybe a little bit so you get, you know, a little bit cleaner sound. So as you can hear, this is already sounding way more lo-fi and vintage. So yeah, MDA Degrade is a very good plugin for this. Also, you can put maybe like a stereo enhancer on it, because it does kind of make it really mono, I think. Also, if you do have the plugins, you can put RC20 on your master. I like to use Reels. Reels is a pretty cool tape emulation plugin that I use a lot, but I just mainly wanted to show how to do it without having to buy plugins and stuff. So when it comes to laying out the beats for synthwave, it's pretty much no different than any other type of beat. What you want to do is mainly have, you know, your main sound playing throughout most of the beat like this, and then maybe bring in some, you know, hi-hats or something here, you know, maybe the snare. And then you can have all the drums drop in, and then you can take out some drums here. So maybe take out some of these percussion sounds, take out, you know, the shaker, and then not have the toms play for this one. Take out the counter melody here, you know, bring everything back in, and then, you know, switch it up again, do something like this. Whatever you want to do here, it's totally up to you, but the main goal is to just keep it fresh every 4 bars, kind of bring in something new. Just make sure your beat doesn't get too repetitive is all. So yeah, that is pretty much going to do it for me in this video. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Let me know if you have any questions down in the comments below. As you can see, making synthwave is really not that hard to do. I always have a lot of fun making these type of beats, and I'm sure you guys will as well. So yeah, make sure you guys check out my Instagram and my SoundCloud down in the description below, along with playlists of songs I produce, my Beatstorm, my Discord, all that stuff. Go check it out if you'd like to do so, and I will see you guys next time.
Different language, boy, both say cheese.
I see love on my name. All the stars are lined in their place. Infinitely stretching towards the end.